Okay, um, we've had a little technical difficulty. I had to hash up a chart for the lesson because the my modal chart wasn't complete, and it looked like it was doing nothing but spinning my head. And since it just got up, that's not what I want to happen. So I've brought an earlier diagram, but keep in mind this one, the x and the y axes are uh, switched. So the dot scale in this drawing, now the reason why I made this drawing, it's not a bad drawing, is because it has the G dot, A dot, B dot, C sharp dot, and E double dot going horizontally. That would be in the x direction. And then in the y direction, there are the dot scales. So off of each dot, okay, you can start a scale. So let's look at that G dot again that we were looking at. Here we have G, F, E flat, G, C, B, A flat, G. Now these ones I rearranged so that the G would become the root of the dot scale. Okay, so these are definitely the dot scales. The question is, how do you figure out what scale that dot is going to be? If you just started a regular major scale from that dot, but then you'd have to see that with the F it would become the second, with the E flat it would become the third. So that I have in this diagram over here. Okay, so you have the G dot here. Now we're going dot scales on the X, and we're going scales to play from the dot note on the right, on the y-axis rather. So we have the G here. Here's our G dot right here, but remember, this isn't. It's not lined up like that. It's lined up as if you had, the guitar like this. Okay. So the dot scale is like kind of an abstract concept that you want to keep in your mind. And what we're trying to do here is look at one note, one dot, and see all the possibilities. Okay, so it's best to look at the chart instead of, me trying to like rehash things that I thought about while I was sleeping or trying to sleep or going to sleep when I finally just gave up. That's what happens, and if it's that important, I'll get up in the middle of the night or from going to sleep and write it down. Write down that music, whatever it is. I'll write it down and make sure I can work on it in the morning. But I've been getting better at just getting up and doing it right on the computer, and then getting it right onto the diagram the first time. So the one thing about the dots is they're easy, but it's difficult to get every single possibility. It's like taking a note on a piano, like a G note on a piano. It could be a whole lot of different things. It could be a member of the C scale, which gives it it's the fifth of the Ionian, and it's the fourth of the Lydian, of the Dorian, right? It could be any one of these scales, but it would be the same scale. In other words, if you wanted to play the fifth of the Ionian or the fourth of the Dorian, they'd be the same scale. The third of the Phrygian scale is the same scale as the second of the Dorian scale, is the same scale as the fifth. So the Mixolydian is the same scale. Okay, it's the fifth of the C, it's the fourth of the Dorian scale, it's the third of the Phrygian scale. It's the second of the Lydian scale. Same scale. So that's kind of important. You know, that's why I had a little problem with the diagram. But it's very important to understand now if I want to change the scales from the G dot. So if we start on an Ionian, I'm just going to do, I guess I'll do an E shape. So if you have an E shape there, you know that's going to be an Ionian. Okay. And then it could be a Dorian. It could be a Phrygian. It could be the Lydian. Now where's that going to be? Right there. Let's make sure that Lydian was right. We have our S4 XL, and then we just go into an S4 E. Okay, so that Lydian from the G does have, which is the fourth of D. Let's make sure we hit that C sharp. No, that's not there. There's our C sharp. Okay, so that fourth extra long, all right, that S1 4 XL extra long, starting from the G shape, all right, which is really the C shape, the whatchamacallit, the third and the fourth and the fifth. Okay, that's the fourth. So it's the C shape that has the third, the fourth, and the fifth. So we're starting on the C shape. We'll be ending on that A shape. That's the A shape there. So if we just play an A shape from there, we should be good. Same thing. Short A, short C, long C, or we call it the 4, which is included in the C short down here, into the next caged up with this, which is the A. So that worked. And similarly for the Mixolydian, we can play the Mixolydian, a nice long pattern from there. Okay, so that 5 is part of a 5/6, which is an A pattern. That's why I call the Mixolydian the A pattern. Here's the A, here's an A, here's an A. There's an A, sorry, that's 4, 5, 6. So we're starting on the 5/6 there. The A pattern is going, the long pattern is going to play into what? C, A, G. Into the G pattern on top. So going like this. It's just like playing a G pattern, short pattern after the A pattern. Same thing. Making G the Aeolian, you know it. The wife's home. Good thing though. Okay, so similarly for the Aeolian, you know, we could play that 6/7 root, 6/7 root. So it's going to be a big old S4 G pattern. Okay, that's the Aeolian. And the Locrian. And then okay, So we could play a modal scale off of the dot, and we're going to talk about the